everyone, and welcome to the Stay at Home Baker. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make a German chocolate cake. The easiest way to make this recipe is in a 9x13 pan. You'll bake this at 350 degrees from 35 to 40 minutes. Or you can be a little fancier, you can make a layer cake. So you'll bake two 9-inch rounds from 30 to 35 minutes. Or you can make cupcakes, which is what I'm going to do, and you'll bake these at 350 from 22 to 25 minutes. So let's assemble the ingredients. So to make this recipe, we'll need 2 cups of white sugar, 1 3/4 cup of unbleached flour, 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda and 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 eggs, 1/2 a cup of vegetable oil, 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of boiling water, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. While my oven is preheating, I've prepared my pans. If you're making a cake, you'll want to spray your pans with a non-stick cooking spray, or you can use a product, it's called Baker's Joy. I've used it many years and I love it. It's a non-stick spray that actually has flour in it. Many recipes will call for oiling and then flouring your pans, but this eliminates that. You can just spray it on and it works wonderful, so you can do that too. Next, I'm going to be adding the sugar, the flour, the cocoa powder, the baking soda and baking powder, and the salt to my mixing bowl. Then I'm going to take a whisk and just stir them together till they're combined. Now to the dry ingredients, I'm going to add the wet ingredients. So I'm going to add the eggs, the oil, the milk, and the vanilla. And I'm going to beat this for 2 minutes on a medium speed. So after mixing the batter for 2 minutes, I'm going to pour in the boiling water and I'm going to stir it by hand. And this is going to make the batter really, really thin. It's going to be really soupy. But that is normal. That is completely normal. So we're just going to stir that in until it's all mixed together. And then we're going to put it in our pans. So the cupcakes are ready to go in the oven. I filled the cupcake cups about 3/4 way full with the batter, so I ended up with 24 cupcakes. So I'm going to put these in the oven now and we'll bake them for about 22 or so minutes. While my cupcakes are baking, I'm going to start working on the frosting. So the frosting, you will need 1 cup of evaporated milk, 1 cup of sugar, 1/2 of a cup of butter, 3 egg yolks. We're going to need a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 1/2 cups of chopped pecans or pecan pieces, and 1 1/2 cups of shredded sweetened coconut. Now I love coconut, so I usually add more than just 1.5 cups. So in my saucepan, I've added the butter, the sugar, the eggs, and the evaporated milk. So now I'll take it over to the cooktop and we're going to cook it for about 10 to 12 minutes till it gets thick. So I have my frosting on the cooktop on a medium-low flame. We don't want it to be too hot. We're going to whisk it until everything melts. And then we're going to continue whisking it for about 10 to 12 minutes until it starts to slightly thicken. So I ended up cooking this for 10 minutes. And it may be a little hard to tell, but it did thicken up, and it will continue to thicken up as it cools. So now I'll add the pecans, the coconuts, and the vanilla. I'm going to stir all the frosting ingredients together until it's completely mixed. If you're making a 9 by 13 cake, you can put the frosting on while it's still warm. The same is true of a layer cake. And also this will make enough frosting to put in between the layers and also on top. I'm going to let this completely cool though, because I'm actually going to make a chocolate buttercream frosting that I'm going to edge my cupcakes with and then put this frosting inside. So I'll need this to be completely cool, otherwise it would melt the buttercream frosting. My cupcakes are done. They took 22 minutes to bake, but just to make sure, I'm going to do a toothpick test and make sure they are completely done. So it looks good. So I'll let these cool completely before I put the frosting on. Next, I'm going to be making the chocolate buttercream frosting. For this, I will use a half a cup of butter that's been softened, a half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder that's been sifted, 2 2/3 cup of powdered sugar that's been sifted, 1/3 cup of half and half, or you can use heavy cream or even milk if you would like. Plus, we need a little extra just in case we need to add some more to make the texture right. And then 1½ teaspoons of vanilla. So what I'm going to do is I am going to mix the cocoa powder with the powdered sugar, and I'm going to add the vanilla to the half and half. I've added my butter to my mixing bowl, and now I'm going to just mix it until it's smooth and creamy. Next, I'll add some of the sugar and cocoa powder mixer to the mixing bowl, but not all of it because I'm going to alternate it with the milk mixture. Then a little bit of the half and half, and I'm going to alternate these until everything's mixed in. And you can use a spatula to make sure everything gets mixed in. And a little more cocoa powder, powdered sugar. So about 1/3 at a time is what I'm adding of each. So the frosting looks good. It looks like it's a good consistency. I didn't end up having to add any extra half and half, so that was nice. But if you do find that it's a little too dry, add just a little bit of half and half and keep adding and mixing it in until you get the right consistency. So I've filled my decorating bag with the buttercream frosting. I put a star tip on, and I'm just going to pipe around the edges of each cupcake. It's not necessary to have the buttercream frosting, but I personally like how it looks. I think it gives a nice touch. And then once I've piped around the edges, I'm going to put the German chocolate cake topping in the middle. So here they are finished. I hope you enjoyed watching today.